Welcome to Warzone Critical Mass, bull number 2 from Octavius. I'm Darren, and today I'm going to talk to you about the orky goodness that we've just received from this new Octavius book, Critical Mass. Listen, it's so super cool. This book is pretty much, I would say, dedicated for the Orks. I'm going to keep this video short, sweet. I try to keep it under 15 minutes. And I'm going to talk to you, I'm not going to read stat by stat, strat by strat. I'm going to pick out the best bits that I think are really, really cool. And I'm going to run down in the best way I possibly can the benefits of over the new bits out of the blood axes and what you're getting out of the speed freaks. So let's take you through the first part, which is going to be the Blood Axe supplement. Quite an interesting little read on this one. This one looks like it's going to benefit more for the commandos, the sneaky gits hiding in the terrain. So this first section, I'm going to talk to you about the new Warlord traits that's coming in the Blood Axes. So the first Warlord trait is Extra Cunning. Extra Cunning is pretty much ability, while the Warlord's on the battlefield, you can reduce, once per battle, a command point down to 1 CP, or reduce it down by a CP, should we say. Most things are 2 CP, but that could be quite handy. Don't see it being powerful, but it could be quite handy. So the next Warlord trait is going to be Counter Tactics. I thought this was pretty a sweet one. So with your Warlord, any of your core units or Blood Axe core units around him, they also get the ability to have the heroic intervention as if they were a character. So that's going to be quite handy. So if you do get that unlucky situation where your war boss is open to attack, potentially he could be saved by his blood axes. And you could be a sneaky little boss and you could set your opponent up, open yourself up wide and let him think he's coming in to have a nice juicy attack upon your Warlord. And then you spring your cunning trap. Dunking cover, boys, is the next Warlord trait. Now this is a pretty damn sweet one. So with this one, long as your Warlord is in a terrain feature, he can select a Ork boys, or he can also select commandos. What that means is, providing they're wholly within terrain feature, your enemy cannot shoot at them if they are not themselves within 12 inches of that terrain feature. That is pretty darn strong, because that potentially could mean that you could have that extra little cheeky little ability of jumping in there straight on. So let's go into relics. Now there is 3 new relics for the blood axes. You got the straight shooter, you got the noise box, but the one I absolutely love, and that is Fight Detector! I see the boys there, just go tug them! Basically what that means is, if your enemy sets up reinforcement and drops their units down within 12 inches of the bearer of that relic, a core unit of Ork boys for the blood axes can basically charge them as if there was their charge phase, so out of sequence charge phase, which is absolutely brutal. And you also add 2 to the charge roll, and I thought that was absolutely pretty darn strong. So let's talk about the stratagems that are for the blood axes. Now in the stratagem section, there's some really, really cool ones in there, and it also brings one of my units back to life, and I am super, super chuffed for. So the first one is Youngbloods, and this is going to be giving our Storm Boys +1 strength. That's pretty darn cool for 1 CP, and if it's a bigger unit, it's going to be 2 CP, so that's a pretty cool one. If you're familiar with the channel and you watch a lot of our content, you know I'm a big fan of the looters. The next one is Discipline Doctrines. Nope, Trigger Disciplines. Let's get it right. But what that means is, for my looters, if they are under 10 or under, it's going to mean that I get to, for 1 CP, I get to reroll my hits. Over 10, it means for 2 CP, I get to reroll hits. This is pretty good because I really love looters, and I see there's a lot of damn play in the looters to make this really, really happen. And now with all the DACA rules, etc., you can make some really cool play with the looters. The next one I thought was really cool was Tactical Awareness. This is not a new one. This is something that's going to be we've seen quite a lot in other codexes. But what the Tactical Awareness means is they can start performing an action and they can still shoot and do other things at the same time. And that is coming in at 2 CP. So it is expensive on the CP wise, but if there's a situation where you need to do something, as in like your looters need to fire, etc., and they're holding an objective and they're doing an action, that could be quite handy to actually have. Now this is a beautiful one. Smash! What that means is, if that unit gets charged for 1 CP, they basically get to fight first, and the charging unit doesn't get any of the benefits for fighting first. They don't get any of their cool abilities, and plus if they're attacking onto that unit, they're always also -1 to hit. That is pretty darn strong. And of course, hopefully you can see the strats here. So thoughts on the Blood Axes. Look, this is not going to make the Blood Axes like super competitive. It's not going to make them like super go-to unit, because there's going to be so many cool other things, which I'm about to talk about with the Speed Freaks. But there's definitely a lot of play with the Blood Axes. So if you don't want to go the vehicle way, you like the idea of commandos, you like the sneaky abilities, Blood Axes have got so much cool play to them, and I can see them as being such a really cool super unit to take. And you know what you could do, you could go 50% Blood Axes, and you can go 50% of what I'm about to tell you next. So let's talk about the Speed Freak mob. Now this is going to be the one I see being most amount of play in the actual tournament setting itself. With this Speed Freak mob, it has a couple of benefits and it has a couple of negatives. Now the benefits really do outweigh the negatives. So let's go through with the negatives first, and then when I go through the benefits, you'll understand why the benefits outweigh them. So first off, when you go with the negatives, all the negative is you cannot take any clan culture. So when you go with the Speed Freak mob, it basically, any of the clan features you would have had before, you just replace it with the speed mob. So for instance, you can't take freebooters. If you wanted to go goths, all those disappear. But on their own, the benefits are, now you can take an Outrider detachment. If your Warlord's in that detachment, you gain free CP back. So before, it used to cost you to take that. Now you don't, you're not so much badly affected by taking a Speed Freaks unit, which is pretty damn cool, or an Outrider's detachment, so to say. So next benefit, your bikers gain the Objective Secure rule. That is pretty darn strong, because now the bikers, you know, they're going to be fast around the battlefield. You know, taking those objectives can be really, really strong. Plus, they've got a really big fire output on them as well. Next benefit on the clan cultures. So the next benefit going in with the Speed Freak mob, all the models gain a 6-up invulnerable save. On top of that, if your models advance, they gain a 5-up invulnerable save, which is pretty darn good. And of course, an extra added benefit, once your unit is advanced on the army, after shooting phase, they count as acting as moved as normal. So what that means for yourself is a lot of things are probably not going to be able to shoot once they've advanced, but it does mean that unit can then charge, which could be really, really strong. So if taking into consideration of the bikes, I can see we're going to see a lot more bikes on the battlefield, because that means they can move, advance, charge, which is going to be really strong. So if you're going up against an army, it's got a nice little screen up. If you've got your buggies in there, for instance, you could be using those buggies and just shooting the hell out of that front line, clearing, you know, that screen, making that screen open, and then all of a sudden your bikes are going to be going in there, going for the Hive Guard if you're going up against Tyranids. If you're going up against Abmech, you know, you're going to be opening that unit up, or the army up, so you can get into the juicy bits that's causing you a lot of trouble on the battlefield. So if you think Orks were bad enough as it was at the moment in the tournament play, they're just about to get a hell of a lot worse. So let's talk about one extra added benefit. So this is going to make them even more super powerful. When they charge or do a heroic intervention, they also gain 1 additional attack. So all of a sudden, those bikes are going to be pushing out so much damage. It's going to be absolutely scary. Now, for the Speed Freaks, you're going to be taking wagons, planes, and anything with the Speed Freak keyword. That is really darn cool. So I'm already thinking lists in my head. By the way, if you like the content we're pushing out, Twist Dice, if you could do me a solid one by hitting that like and subscribe, it does help me out massively. Hit that bell, because I will be pulling some plans together and writing some little videos up on some lists that I'm thinking about taking in future tournaments. So do stick around, because I'm going to talk more in depth on how to play these to their best ability. So let's talk about the Speed Freaks Warlord trait. Now there is only one, and there only needs to be one, because I can see this being very, very powerful. It's the Speed King! Basically what that means, units within 6 inches, not including the Warlord himself or any characters, but what that means is when they make an attack, you get to re-roll the 1s on the wound roll. That's powerful, like super, super powerful. You want to go into combat, boom, all of a sudden, you know, you're going to be more devastating on the battlefield itself. And that makes it so, so super, super, super cool. So I can definitely see that is going to be the Warlord trait you're going to take every damn time. Speed Freaks have also got their own 2 custom jobs, which are pretty cool. So you've got the drag chains, and you've also got the raised suspension. Drag chains are not, I thought this was really cool. So drag chains are, if you fall out of combat, the chains themselves, I can imagine like being like Ghost Rider, where you're just slapping the chain around the throat of something and you're just yanking it out. On 2 to 5, they are suffering D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they're suffering 3 mortal wounds. But of course, monsters and vehicles don't count. Next one is raised suspension. Now, I thought this was really cool for the times that you get things locked into combat with yourself, like buggies, etc. So now what this means is with the raised suspension, it means that the model itself can fire at other units that are not in with engagement range, even though they've got something, you know, locking itself in, and before they wouldn't be able to shoot, now they can still shoot even if they're engagement range. So they're really 2 cool custom jobs that we're definitely going to see on the battlefield. So going in with the stratagems, we've got 6 new stratagems. Now, I'm not going to read through all of them, but hopefully you should be able to see some of them popping up here. There's a couple in there that I really like. The first one I thought was really cool was charge! And what that means is when they go into combat, they're going to be adding 1 to the strength and adding an extra 1 to their AP, which makes them really, really super cool. So if you've got bites going in there, all of a sudden, you know, they're going to get so much stronger. They're also going to get all the other cool buffs that, you know, potentially going to be calling on the war. But with the extra AP, it's just going to make them devastating. They're going to be really, really damn cool when it comes to the combat side. Now, the next one is going to be really cool. So the next cool strat is crashing through. Crashing through, you've got, if you're going with the bikes, on a 4+, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound, whether they're crashing into, which I thought was really cool. Anything with the vehicle keyword on a 4+ suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now, the booster blasters and the scrap jets, when they go in, they do, on a 4+, 2d3 mortal wounds. That is so damn strong, like so cinematical. I thought that was really, really cool. And then the last one I thought was to mention. So look, there is so many cool things in this book that's definitely well worth considering. It doesn't make the Orks like over the top powerful, as some people may say. At the moment on the battlefield, the Orks are doing really well, definitely with the freebooters. But you just got to bear in mind that the freebooter rule, potentially we could see a nerf coming up very, very quickly with them. At the moment, as you know, Games Workshop does react quite well when stuff are broken, apart from AdMech, and they do start taking into things. So, but what I can see is potentially maybe point increases on some of our vehicles, potentially the planes. I can definitely see the buggies going up 20 points. But look, that's until next year, until the new chapter proof comes out. But it'd be interesting to see, obviously, you know, what your thoughts are on this book and what play that you could see. But as I said, keep making sure that you're watching the content we're pushing out to Twisted Dice, because I will be going into more depth on the Orks. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'm going to catch you another time on another battle report tactical guide. And if it's not me, it'll definitely be Ace.